Hi, this is Vic Fernandes, another in the series, Vic Fernandes Unplugged. Today I'm going to still talk a little bit about the early years of growing up, before my teen years, and some of the influences that impacted on my life. I've already talked a little bit about my stepfather and the fact that his role was not a particularly positive role in my life, but one of the things that I will give him credit for is that my love for cricket, my passion for cricket as a sport, was fueled by the fact that he played cricket and his brothers played cricket. And he taught me at home in the garage the fundamentals of being a good opening batsman, which I went on to become. And I used to put this sock and then have a ball and hang it on a rope from the garage rafters, and I would hit that ball back and forth, using the correct stance, being critiqued by him from time to time, but always it was with a straight bat, playing straight, being able to play straight, taking up the right position. And I'm grateful for that, because I used to go with him, and sometimes on my own, usually after school in the afternoons, to YMPC. And I actually played second division cricket for YMPC when I was just 12 years old. And he was the captain of the team. And I didn't do too badly at that either. So cricket was my passion. And I got that from the stepfather and from his brothers, all of whom played cricket. That's one influence, an influence that has stayed with me. And quite frankly, at one point in my life, I would have loved to have been a professional cricketer if I couldn't be a broadcaster, or if I couldn't be a farmer. Now, let's talk a little bit about farming, because in our household growing up, milk didn't come from the Pine Hill Dairy. It came from the goats. So you had to learn how to milk the goats, how to wash the goats, how to wash the udder. And that milk on a daily basis was the milk that you got in your tea or in whatever you were going to have. Without the cows, with the goat's milk, there would have been no milk in the household. Similarly, our eggs came from chickens in the backyard. We had the bagasse and the long run, and we raised our own chickens. And in the mornings, part of your duty was to go and to feed those chickens and to retrieve the eggs. That was part of life. Going to Mabla's bakery and getting the hot bread, salt bread, or going up to Browns Beach or into Jessamine Avenue and getting the jacks from the guys when they brought them in to sell them, so that you got fresh fish in the morning. These were part of the influences now of my mother. And throughout this series, you will hear me refer to my mother, Muriel Cynthia, as really the foundation, the bedrock of everything that I stood for. And that love of farming and animal husbandry came from my mom, because we had our own livestock. And on weekends, you had to catch one of the chickens, and you had to do the necessary things, which is to do the kill, get the hot water. You pour the hot water on the feathers, you pluck it, you singe it, you cut it open, you clean it, and then somebody else took it from there. That was part of the process of growing up. And little did I know that those two things would have remained part of my passion going forward. So that it was a natural thing for me to go into animal husbandry. And at one point I had about 60 pigs, and I supplied a number of the West Coast hotels with suckling pigs. I had cows, I had sheep, lots of rabbits. Rabbits was more like a hobby. That was my passion, enjoying the giant chinchillas and the New Zealand whites and so on. And I loved rabbits. It was a great hobby. We even did a little bit of butchering. A friend of mine, he worked on a plantation, and we would buy a livestock from people who worked on the plantation who wanted to sell it, take it to the abattoir, and on weekends we would retrieve it, and then we would, as Barbadians would say, the pork or the beef was engaged. That's the term you use for orders. You engage the pork or the beef, as the case may be, and we then would package it, cut it up and package it in my garage, and then we would go out and we would distribute it. So we were entrepreneurial. That business didn't succeed because I didn't have land. I was a landless farmer. So in addition to working on radio and television, I had this small farm in my backyard, fairly big backyard, where I raised the pigs, and I had sheep, and I had goats. I even exhibited at the national annual, what is now Agro Fest, and I won several first prizes for some of my livestock. That I gave up eventually because I did not own land. Later, I would get to own some land, this time up in Newcastle in St. John, and I went into a different type of farming, which I will talk about in a subsequent program. But today, I just wanted to say that growing up, that sense of wanting to be in animal husbandry and having livestock and so on was something that came from within the family structure. You learn how to milk the goats. You learn that milking a goat, you squeeze the udder, whereas with a cow, you pulled on the udder. Completely different. Both gave milk. And you also had to make sure that you milked completely dry so that there was no residue, so that the goats did not get mastitis because of a residue of milk left in the breast. Some of my happy days as a very young man growing up and learning to become self-sufficient. And I guess that was what my mom was trying to teach us, that you need to ensure that whatever career path you choose, that you also did something else to become self-sufficient. I'm Vic Fernandes. This is Unplugged.